In this video, I'm at the Supreme British Motor Museum, full of interesting artifacts and vehicles, and I'm here to talk about engines, specifically the A-Series engine here. This was an engine launched 70 years ago in 1951, was in production until the year 2000 and the end of the classic shape Mini. That's almost 50 years of production. So why did this engine last so long? Why was it so good? Which cars did it appear in? All these questions and more we will now answer. In fact, let's jump into just some of the cars this engine was fitted to. The Austin Allegro, the Austin Maestro, the Morris Minor, the Mini and the Riley Elf, the Morris Marina, the Austin A30. It is an A30, ignore the indicators, they've been added later. The Mini Van, A40 Farina, even the Austin Montego. Not actually these later ones, but that's what we have here. It's been signed by all the people who made it. The Morris Ital, the ERA Mini Turbo, which used the turbocharged engine out of the MG Metro. Speaking of which, the MG Metro, the Mini Moke, the Austin Metro, and the Morris Minor Van. So as you can see, this engine has appeared in a lot of different vehicles, albeit it has changed quite dramatically. There is a big difference between this A-Series engine fitted to the Marina to this mechanical package in the Mini. It's an almost completely different engine from there down. They had to completely re-engineer the whole thing, but we're getting slightly ahead of ourselves as we discuss the implications of this engine. So let's start right at the beginning. So this is where the A-Series story begins, in the Austin A30, launched in 1951, but production really started in May 1952. A very unusual car for Austin, a bit of a leap, surprisingly advanced, especially compared to the competition at the time. Ford was still rolling out side valve Fords of rather ancient looks, and Morris had the Morris Minor, which was technically advanced in some ways, but also still used a side valve engine. At the time that the A30 came out, Austin and Morris were still separate companies. In 1952 they merged to form BMC, the British Motor Corporation, and that explains how this engine would end up in the Morris Minor. We're jumping slightly ahead. Let's just have a quick look at the engine. So somewhat lost in this tiny engine bay is the A-Series engine in its original form. 803cc, 28 brake horsepower, not exactly potent, but there were some very good features already apparent in this engine. It was very under square, partly due to British tax laws at the time, where the tax was based on the bore of the engine. It was decided to make it a long stroke engine, but that combined with Harry Westlake's cylinder head meant for very strong torque characteristics. Maximum torque produced at just 2000 RPM, and also that cylinder head gave very good behavior under partial throttle. So it was a very user-friendly engine. It behaved nicely. It didn't jolt all over the place. So with the merger of Austin and Morris, we got the Morris Minor Series 2, which now uses that 803cc A-Series engine. Not the best, to be honest, a little underpowered for the amount of weight it was having to carry around. They had to gear it right down, so 50 miles an hour was hard work, and 60 miles an hour took an absolute age to come up. And then because of the engine's weaknesses running at speed, it would likely throw its crankshaft bearings out. So the A-Series was not a great engine to start with. It had potential. In 1956, the A-Series engine underwent something of a transformation. The bottom end was beefed up to be much more robust, and the capacity was increased to 948cc. It was still an under-square engine with a longer stroke than bore, so it still had good torque characteristics, but power with a single carburettor was now up to 37 brake horse. It transformed the Morris Minor. Different animal entirely, much better torque characteristics, much better power, so now 70 miles an hour could be achieved and 60 could be a comfortable cruise. You could probably just about do 60 miles an hour at an A30 or indeed a Morris Minor Series 2, but you were pushing the limits and the engine was not going to like that for very long. So this was completely transformative. You could now take your Morris Minor on those newfangled motorways and it would handle it okay. It would be fine with that. So a major leap, but further changes were coming. Before we get to the remarkable Mini, in 1958 the Austin A40 Farina replaced the A35, initially using the same 948cc engine, but later adopting the 1098 version, which would also later find its way into the Morris Minor. That 1098cc engine was also used as the basis for this car. This is the BMC 1100-1300, available with either of those sizes, the 1098 or the 1275, and also optioned in this case with automatic transmission. AP Transmissions, a fairly local company here in Warwickshire, managed to develop an automatic gearbox that would run on engine oil, because the engine and the gearbox share the same fluid. So it took some doing, but they did manage it. I've tested a Morris Nomad equipped with that gearbox, which you can see in a separate video. But this car was a massive success. They sold millions. It was the best-selling car in Britain. It proved that not everyone wanted boring conventional cars. The Ford Escort and some of the Vauxhall offerings, very conventional at the time. It proved that front-wheel drive in this package could be so good, because it's still a fairly small car, but there is loads of interior space. So very, very popular cars indeed, and that helped cement this idea of the transverse engine in everyone's minds. And to think this is years before Fiat adopted the popular gearbox on end technique. That was 1964, I think that was first seen on the Auto Bianchi Primula. These 1100s came out in 1961 and ultimately replaced by the Allegro, but definitely one of the great British successes, partly due to that A-Series engine. It just offered that strong torque characteristic. It made this a very nippy car. The handling just backed up what was a superb engine. So in 1959, the A-Series engine had a radical overhaul to be fitted to the Mini, this being one of the earliest ever built. The transverse layout, Elek Izagonis doing his packaging magic, actually meant the engine ended up being very, very different. Almost every detail ended up different at a time when he was told to use a standard production engine to keep costs down, so that didn't go too well. But the packing genius meant under this bonnet you could cram an engine that came no further back than here, which left the rest of the car available for passengers. So actually very spacious inside a Mini because of that clever packaging. And with the gearbox in the sump, it means you haven't got great width either. So there's a surprising amount of space around the engine. And here is that engine, the side mounted radiator, and here's the clutch mechanism which drops drive through gears down to the gearbox down in the sump, buried in the depths of the engine bay. But such a compact installation, it just means you've got so much more room for everything else in the car. So because these first Minis originally used a 948cc engine but found performance was so terrifying, they reduced that down to 848cc, and only later did they start going back up again. But the 850cc engine was in production right through until 1980. Now, it didn't take long for people like Daniel Richmond of Downton Engineering to realise that you could make these Minis very fast indeed. This still has an 848cc engine, but it can do 100 miles an hour. And that gave other people ideas like John Cooper. And that's how the original Mini Cooper came into being. And if we spin the camera around, we can see what happened next. Monte Carlo victories. This is a 1963 Morris Mini Cooper S, because they were Austin 7s or Morris Mini Minors back in the day. And this one was driven by Paddy Hopkirk, who won the 1964 Monte Carlo Rally outright. And he did that with a 1071cc engine. Now that engine is interesting because that's the only A-Series engine that's over square. So the bore is larger than the stroke. It made it very revvy, but it meant peak torque was produced at over 4,000 revs, which is great in a competition car, not so ideal in a road car. So that's why that is a complete one-off. They also developed a special 970cc version for homologation purposes in the 1 litre class, but it was the 1275 that really pushed the Mini into very exciting places. So with something like 75 brake horsepower, it was enough to push these little Minis to getting onto 100 miles an hour, the same as those Downton tuned versions. But the 1275cc engine would become a lifelong partner with the Mini. The very last one produced still had the 1275cc engine, albeit in fuel injected form. Now there should have been more wins for the Mini Cooper on the Monte Carlo Rally, but in 1966 there was a bit of controversy because all the Minis were disqualified on a lighting infringement, a technicality, so a French Citroën DS could win. Yes, that's still causing people to scratch their heads today, but the following year they came good again. So this one won the Monte Carlo Rally in 1977. I love the super aggressive little tyres, but it was that clever engine packaging which allowed the Mini to have such remarkable handling. The stiff suspension, the compact dimensions, it all made it into a rally winner, which was probably not expected when the first Austin A30 rolled off the production line in 1952. In 1971, the Morris Minor was effectively replaced by the Marina, a clever reuse of the Minor floor pan. So we've still got the trunnions at the front end here, simple leaf springs at the back, but repackaged in a much more modern body style and available with larger engines. But the key engine to the Marina was the A-Series engine. It was still here, 1275cc, and surprisingly at home in the Marina. Very usable car with that engine. 70 miles an hour, not a bother, it'll do that all day. And it was proof that this engine was going to last a long time. It was now 20 years old, the A-Series engine, and here it was under the bonnet of a new car. And still they thought, this is good enough, this will be absolutely ideal. That doesn't mean they weren't trying to replace it though. So let's take a brief tangent and look at what they were trying to do instead. So there are a couple of interesting dead ends when it comes to developments of the A-Series. This one has a rubber belt driving an overhead camshaft, but it is otherwise an A-Series engine. It's got the transverse gearbox because this was designed for what would become the Austin Metro. While it did offer some power gains, it didn't really offer enough for them to think, oh, we should put this into production, especially given the money troubles British Leyland was encountering at the time. That was formed in 1968, the merger of more companies to form British Leyland, and sadly it didn't work out too well. And this is another dead end. This is the original K-Series engine, completely unrelated to the later production engine of 1989. But again, more aluminium going on, overhead camshaft. Can we make the A-Series engine better, was their thinking. But they couldn't really do it. They struggled to actually make it any better than it was in a way that justified the extra production costs. So they came up with a different idea. And this was the result. The project that eventually became the Mini Metro had the A+ engine. This was substantially redeveloped, much stronger block, redesigned head, much better in so many ways. It's still a cast iron head though, so there's still a lot of weight up here, but the thermal efficiency of that cast iron engine helps it be really economical. So these Metros, especially the HLEs, could get really impressive economy figures for their day. And that was the key thing, really. Yes, some of the more modern engines were revvier, but actually, do people want revvy engines? The torque characteristics of this engine mean you've got instant grunt, instant power anywhere in the rev range. So it seemed a really sensible way to proceed. And so they kept the engine in production. Redeveloped it. I think it cost about £30 million, but the A-Series engine lived on in much modified form. I love the little tag here saying it was last run up in January 2021, so it has run recently, which is why it looks a bit used, but that's fine. I like museum pieces that are used, so that's good to see. So we can see it's still got the in-sump gearbox of the original Mini. That transmission was continued with the Metro right up until 1990 when the K-Series engine was finally installed in the Metro, and it had an end-on gearbox. This layout also used in the Allegro 3 also used this later A+ engine. But the A+ engine didn't just exist in transverse form, where it powered Metros and now Minis as well from 1980. The A+ engine was also used in the Morris Ital. Perhaps more surprisingly, the A-Series engine, which we saw in the Morris Minor there, was also fitted to the Maestro, but with one key difference. At this point, it has a transverse engine like a Metro, but they used a gearbox from Volkswagen to enable them to have the gearbox on the end. So that engine is actually more closely related to the Morris Ital and the Marina over there. It's the rear wheel drive engine effectively turned through 90 degrees. Very at home in the Maestro, I must say. I've had a Maestro van and a Maestro hatchback, and the engine works really, really well, especially with the 5-speed gearbox that came later. And you think it looks like quite a lot of car to move, but those torque characteristics mean it can do it no bother, and the performance is really absolutely fine. It doesn't struggle. Perhaps more surprisingly, the A-Series engine was also fitted to the Montego. That one didn't last quite so long though, with a bigger boot on the back. The Montego effectively being a Maestro saloon. The performance was felt to be a bit too feeble, so the A-Series in the Montego didn't last that long. Maestro continued production right up until about 2000, albeit production had then been sent to Bulgaria. There was a company assembling them there. Some of them came back as Apples and Ledburys. So they are some of the latest A-Series vehicles you can actually buy. But over here, we will find what purports to be the very last Mini. And really, that is where our story ends. And here it is. This is the celebratory last Mini. It isn't actually the last one built. They took this one off the production line so they could get all their lovely photos. There's Lulu saying goodbye to it because she's also tiny and quite old. Probably not the most flattering thing I've ever said. But that was the end. This is where it all ended in 2000. The Mini finally reached the end of the road. The A-Series engine said goodbye. But they've done some interesting stuff to it. The 1275cc engine now had twin point fuel injection, which is all the more impressive when we take a look at the manifold. Let's go and do that. So what made life so difficult for the engineers? Mike Fica is the chap who actually developed both the single point and multi-point fuel injection for the Mini. Here's this Siamese bore going on, or Siamese inlet. So you'll see we've got an exhaust there, one exhaust there, one exhaust there. That's only 3 branches for 4 cylinders, and the inlet is the same, 1, 2, 3. And if you come around on the inside, that's because the port is shared between 2 cylinders. So that's going into cylinder 2 and that's going into cylinder 3. So that makes it really difficult there to develop a fuel injection system that could sort of do 2 bursts almost to ensure that the right bursts were going in. But clever as it was, developed in 1992 and eventually put into production in 1997, this system boosted economy and brought down emissions because the Mini wasn't going to meet regulations. Now you may think, why would you go to so much trouble to develop fuel injection for a car that's going to go out of production? BMW owned Rover at the time. They had bought Rover in 1994. They knew it was going to go because this project already existed and BMW was very excited about it. But they wanted to keep the Mini in production until the newer model took over. So that's why BMW spent what must have been a fortune on developing a fuel injection system to bring down emissions for a car that was going out of production anyway. The Metro was long gone. Here is the last one. That ended production in 1997. But like I say, this had the K-Series engine and an end-on gearbox. So the A-Series engine was long gone. That's the story of the A-Series engine in a nutshell. A very interesting engine. It powered so many cars, like this little Riley Elf here, and many sports cars as well. It racked up Monte Carlo victories. It powered some of the most iconic cars ever made in Britain. It's quite extraordinary how one little engine can have quite such a life. And yeah, full credit to those who developed this engine originally. They did some absolutely sterling work. So I hope you found that interesting. We looked at some very different cars, all powered by the A-Series engine. It was in production for so long because it was so good. So thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in a future video. Farewell.